In today's tutorial, I'm going to be listing for you the different kinds of audio connectors that we have in audio production and their various uses. Shalom to you, my friends. My name is Isaac from Trego Studios. I welcome you to today's tutorial. If this is your first time on this channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe. On this channel, we train media volunteers on how to become well equipped as a serve God through the media. So if this sounds like you, I'd like you to consider subscribing to this channel. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's tutorial. One of the important things that I strongly believe volunteers should know is how to name cables and to name them correctly, so that when the sound engineer needs a particular connector or needs anything, they will know exactly what the engineer is referring to. Alright, so the first one I'm going to be mentioning is the XLR connectors. Now, these are the connectors that we use on our microphones. Alright, we have the male XLR and we have the female XLR. Alright, most times connectors are usually split into female and male. The major difference between the male and the female connector is that the male gives the signal and the female receives the signal. So when you check your sound system and the way things are set up, you'll notice that wherever you will make use of a male connector, that male connector is actually giving a signal to that particular board that you plugged it into. And when you have a female connector, that particular connector is receiving a signal either from a microphone or from any other input, whatever it is receiving a signal. Alright, so the first one I mentioned is the XLR connectors. We have both the male and the female connector. So an XLR male connector has 3 pins inside, that particular connector, while the female connector has 3 pin holes inside of it. Alright, so that's just the major difference. So the male connector gives the signal and the female connector receives the signal. Alright, the second connector that we use in sound production or audio production is the jack connector. Alright, so there are various sizes of the jack connector, but the most common one, or the one you are most familiar with when people say the jack connector, is actually the 1/4 inch jack. Alright, we have the 1/8 inch jack, 1/8 inch jack. We have the 1/4 inch jack, but the most common one is the 1/4 inch jack. But sometimes people call it the guitar cable. Alright, I just call it a jack plug. Alright, so that's the cable the guitar uses. Some pianos or keyboard uses the jack cable as well. Alright, so you use jack cables in different ways. Some microphones also have jack connectors on the other hand. It has a female XLR on one end and a jack end on the other end. So, but mostly it's used for jack to jack instruments like the guitars or the keyboards. Alright, so that is it. And just like I said, they have different sizes. We have the 1/4 inch jack and the 1/8 inch jack. Alright, so now another thing you should note in a jack plug is there are actually 3 basic kinds of jack plugs. We have the TS jack plug, we have the TRS jack plug, and we have the TRRS jack plug. Now, how do you know the difference, or what does this TS, TRS, and TRRS stands for? So the TS stands for the tip and the sleeve. Excuse me. Alright, so I have an example of a jack plug right here. Now, this is a TRS jack plug. Now, this tip is referred to as the tip. This tip is what the T stands for. And then you see a black ring here. That's the ring. That's what the R stands for. That's a ring. It has a single ring. And then the sleeve. That's what the S stands for. TRS. So some jack plugs do not have any ring at all. Those are called the CS jack connectors. Some have a single ring. That's the TRS connectors, and some have a double ring. That's the TRRS connectors. So I have a stereo jack plug here, which has a tip. It has 2 rings. One ring is at the top here. There's another ring here, and then the sleeve, alright, is right here. So what's the difference actually? So most times you have a TRRS plug when it is a stereo jack plug. Alright, so a TS or a TRS plug is just a mono plug. Alright, but when you need a stereo input or a stereo output, you make use of a TRRS plug. So that's just the major difference. So when you are connecting an instrument that has a stereo or an effect that has a stereo, signal, you make use of the TRRS, jack. So the difference between the quarter-inch jack and the 1/8-inch jack is the 1/8-inch jack is a small jack. It's the one that you use, on your that's the cord we use on our phones, on our earpiece or our headphones. All right. So most of those headphones, the main one that enters into our phone, they are the mini jack or the 1/8-inch. That's another name they call the small jack. They call it a mini jack or a small jack or the 1/8-inch jack. All right. So they also split into TS, TRS, and TRRS. And most times when you have the TRRS, that's useful. On the mini jack, we can have a TRRS, plug, a TRRS jack plug. All right. So that is, you have 3 rings there. So the third ring is actually used for your mouthpiece, so that it can serve as a mouthpiece for your phone. So when you have an earpiece that has 3 rings, that means that earpiece also has a mouthpiece. Or if it is just 2 or 3 rings, it's just a stereo earpiece without a mouthpiece. All right. So the next connector I'm going to be telling you is a speakon connector. Right. We use the speakon connector to connect speakers. All right. So there are different models of the speakon connectors, but they basically do the same thing. You can't get confused about them. The speakon plugs, you use them for speakers. All right. Another connector that we use in audio production is the RCA connector or the RCA cable. Now these connectors, we use them, sometimes you use them for playback of music into your sound system, or to record your sound production from your mixer into your computer or whatever platform you're using to record. So the RCA connector, which stands for the Radio Corporation of America, that's what the RCA stands for. Usually these kind of connectors come with the one end of the connector having the RCA and the other end of the connector having a mini jack or a 1/8-inch jack connector, so you can plug into your phone for playback or plug into your system if you decide to record, or for playback as well. Another kind of connector that we use in audio production is the MIDI connectors, right, or the MIDI cable connectors, right. So these kind of connectors are used to read information, from a MIDI instrument into your computer. Take for instance, a MIDI keyboard needs a MIDI cable connector to connect from the MIDI keyboard into your sound card or your audio interface that will be connected into your sound system, so that when the MIDI keyboard is being used, the signals or the right inputs is going to be produced on the computer. Most of the times we use these MIDI controllers in studio productions, but sometimes it can be used in live performances, such as it's possible for you to be using a MIDI keyboard and be getting sounds from your computer. Some churches do that. They use a MIDI keyboard to play in church and they connect it to their computers where the sound is generated from. Alright, so that is the case where you use this MIDI controller, MIDI keyboards or MIDI cables. Alright, so another kind of cable that we use is the USB connector. Usually you use this to connect your devices to your computers. Like you can have a USB connector that connects your audio interface to your computer. You can have one that connects your MIDI keyboard to your computer. So some MIDI keyboards do not use MIDI connectors; they use USB connectors. All right, so you can use that MIDI connector to connect these two things together. Now, there are other types of connectors that we use in audio production, but these are the major connectors you will, find yourself coming across as you go through the media. Most of the times, especially in a live performance, you will make use of these major things: XLR cables, jack cables, RCA cables, speakon cables. These are the major cables you find around, when you are setting up your sound production. So thank you for staying to the end of this tutorial. I believe you have been blessed and you have learned one thing or the other. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below, And if you need my advice or any counsel concerning your sound system or sound production, you can as well reach out to me in the comment below. I'm going to drop my number in the comment section so that you can reach out to me. My WhatsApp number. You can reach out to me if you need any counsel or any help as regards your production in church. Alright, so thank you for staying to the end of the tutorial. Till I come your way again next time, I want you to remain faithful in the Lord's service. God bless you. Bye.